Hello, my fellow board gamers. Today I bring you an overview of Import Export. Now, if you're after a run through, I'll be bringing you that video next week. And this is brought to us by the designer here, Jordan Draper. It's also published by him as well, Jordan Draper Games. Now, this one plays 2 to 6 and it takes in the region of 45 to 90 minutes, which is about right. And this is that medium to heavier complexity game. Now, in this one, we are running shipping companies. These are our businesses. We'll be trying to import, export goods, as the name of the game is, and we will be trying to attain more crew. We'll be trying to attain more goods, which gives us more experience in fulfilling better contracts onto these ships. As we fulfill contracts, we'll be getting more capabilities to give us better various actions we can do and break the game. Essentially, we'll be attaining set collection at the end to get more victory points. Hopefully don't have as many illegal goods because we're getting negative for there. This is our harbour, get more crew, which gives us the capability to do actions more. And as you send those boats out, they'll be going into the open sea here, which is where you're going to be pirating those containers. And this game's all about multi-use cards, which will become apparent in a second. So as you try and steal them or use these, import them onto your harbour as crew and goods, these empty ships will be coming back and then you'll be fulfilling with contracts and the cycle continues. Now this is a sort of two-player setup. You can see you've got harbours of different colours. So these guys are all about agriculture. That gives them a starting advantage in that. And these guys are about consumer goods. You've got Supply Island at the top here. So a deck of cards of 100 cards there, which you will be cycling through for sure. And Supply Island gives you an extra option to either sell cards here for credits, or you can take a card or two from there using the supply action. Now, I can't go through all the rules today. There's quite a lot going on. I'm going to give you hopefully a good flavour and a good overview here. So at the beginning, you will start with 5 cards and you'll be determining, right, which action am I going to take, or am I just going to replenish my hand if I've used many? So the actions you can actually do then is, number 1, you can undertake one of these actions listed on your board here, and I'll go through those in a minute. If you didn't want to do that and you're running short on cards, or you didn't have the cards you necessarily wanted, you can replenish. And if this was the case, you'd replenish up to 5. Boom, you take 2 cards. If you happen to have 5 cards already, you will just take 1 additional card from the top of the deck. So you'd have 6 cards. Boom, that's your go done. Pass over to the next player. They could equally do the same thing. They could decide, right, I don't quite like what I've got here. I'm just going to take an extra card from the deck. Now, if they decide to do this action, no other players can do an action as well. But if these guys do decide to choose one of these, all the other players get to participate and choose that action if they have the cards, or they want to choose their crew to participate as well. And we're going to demonstrate this. So we happen to have an excess of supply. So we're going to do the supply action. So you place this here. You declare how many times you're going to do this. In this case, it's only once because they've got no crew members who are developed in this action. So if this was the case and you did a supply action, boom, you say, right, I'm going to do it twice. This is 1, and my crew member is going to participate as well. So 2. Now, before you actually do the action, you have to go around all the opponents clockwise, and they are equally going to participate if they've got the card. So these guys are like, yep, I'm going to participate. Boom, I'm going to do it once because I haven't got the extra crew. Now, if these guys did not want to participate, they've got the option to either refill back up to 5, or if they've already got 5, they can take an additional card. Equally, if they didn't want to spend a card, let me just give you a demonstration here. If they didn't want to spend a card to do the supply, they could replenish up to 5 or take a card, as well as use their crew member to participate. So you don't necessarily need to have a card there. You can use the crew member. That only applies for your opponents when they're following your action. The actual player who chose the action will have to spend the card. They can't just use the crew for the action if they haven't got it in their hand. Now, I should add that if you don't have the card for the match in action, you can actually spend 2 of another type. So if you had 2 of these loads, you could spend 2 loads and say, right, I want to do an import action. So it sort of helps you get around if you can't really find the action you're after. So they chose the supply one. Your opponents are either participating or not. And what is the supply? This is where you're going to either sell a card to Supply Island at the top here, and you're going to gain 4 credits. Now, the credits in this game, you've got all these lovely metal cargo ships, but they're actually just worth 2 and 10. That's the denominations. The colours don't actually matter in this version, and it's a race to get to 50, which will trigger the game end, and then whoever has the most from all these end game, various scoring abilities and majorities and negatives and stuff, will be the winner. Now, back to Supply. We can sell a card there for 4 credits, boom, or we can take a card from the supply and add it to our crew, only if we've got the capacity, because the more contracts you get, not only do you get better abilities, but you get better multipliers. So 1 times the number of these, and this base harbour is classed as 1. So you've got 3 contracts times 1, means you can have up to 3 crew members. And that's great because they give you the ability to undertake actions in higher quantities. Equally, 3 contracts times 2 means you can store more goods. And I'll show you how you get more goods from importing in a minute. More goods means you're competing for the extra credits at the end of the game for majorities, and you can also set collect here. If you have 1 of each type at the end, that's 10 victory points as well. So that's what Supply is all about. Importing then, this is where you're going to pick a ship at sea. So let's just say we go for this one. Everyone's decided if they're going to enter into this particular action or not. Now, if you're the only person to do the action, you choose this ship, you then do a bid, but because you're the only person, you're going to win the bid, and you're probably going to bid 0. Whereas if several other players participate, it's a blind bid. You all reveal your hand. Whoever has the highest bid will steal 2 containers from that ship, and everyone else will get the bids back. Now, if they happen to steal from one of your ships, let's just say the black player chose their own ship, but they actually lost the auction, the bid, this particular colour would get 2 credits compensation. So, yeah, now those goods, once you've taken them off the ship, what are you going to do with them? So this is how you're developing your infrastructure and your harbour. You can either put 1 in your crew if you've got the potential of the multipliers, and 1 in your goods. Or you can put both in your goods. You want more goods because you want to get more experience. You can see these cards as well have these sort of little dots on the side. And that's that your supplier wants you to have experience before you can provide shampoo. Now, this requires an experience level of 1. You've got the ability at the start of the game for consumer goods, which is black in this case, and you've also acquired another consumer good. So you've got the capability, the experience of 2. And if you came along with, let's just say, this one here, you really wanted to do these how do you pronounce that, fixie bikes, and you wanted to send this contract on your ship, you couldn't do it because you need 3 experience and you've only got 1, 2. So you have to bear that in mind as when you're deciding which one of these cards you're going to play as a contract. So that's all about importing contracts. Then you look at your hand, you play the contract ability. In this case they haven't got one, so they go, right, I'm going to play these 2 blues as a wild. You go for all your opponents, and let's say none of them want to participate in contracts, but they do refill their hand or they do add an extra card, etc. So they've paid these 2. They then pick one of these, and matching the requirements, say these SM Poodles, they put this under here. They don't need any experience because 0 of them are coloured good because they haven't got any experience in luxury goods. This is now a contract. Now, to complete this contract, once they've completed it, they're going to get this lovely benefit, move to your goods when fulfilled. That's quite nice because that means it's going to go here rather than up there. And the requirement to fill it is 4 blues. So as you go through some of the other actions, so let's just say you've done that one, loading. That is one way of getting goods from your hand onto this ship. So if you did the load action on a future round, you play this load one, and then you can move this blue one in your hand, pop it under here, and you're 1/4 of the way to fill in this one. So you can see again, multi-use, this is now represented the colour of an actual container ship rather than all the information around it. Once you do have 4 blue containers on here, either by loading them up from this action or pirating, and this is where you take a container from any of these ships out here or Supply Island. So let's say you'd probably want to pinch some of these here, you could put those under here, but once you immediately have 4 blues in this case, that ship will go out to sea. You will earn credits depending on how many containers you took, which would be 4 in this case. So you look at here, 4 containers is going to get you 10 credits, which contributes to your 50 required to trigger that game end. You also get the contract card you completed. So this would go out to sea with these 2 cards here, and that's great because it gives other people the chance to either pirate them or import them and use them for their abilities for the crew or the goods, etc. But this gets popped under here, the contract you fulfilled. So not only have you taken your money, but you now got this benefit, and it also increases your multipliers. So going back to pirate, then you can either pirate from a ship at sea or the supply. But interestingly, the more pirated goods you acquire, well, this isn't to do with the pirate ship, this is to do with importing. But the more pirated ships you get, they're actually with 2 victory points at the end of the game. But if you happen to have pirated the most illegal goods, you're going to lose 6. So we pretty much carry on. You're loading these contracts into your ships. You're trying to either pirate or load on the right types of goods. These go out to the open sea. You get paid credits for doing so. Other players can come along and pirate them or import them, and they bring them back. You're trying to develop your infrastructure with more crew and more goods for set collection and more experience. So you're doing this again and again, a really quick flow of, either refilling your hand or doing an action. Everyone gets to follow if they want. The more crew you get, the more times you can do that action, which is great. And eventually someone is either going to hit the 50 mark, which triggers the game end. You then work your way through all these. You can see 6 points if you have the majority of agriculture, and you're going to get a point anyway just for having 2 of these, so 2 points on hand there. You work your way down, negatives for that one, slightly more VPs for majority and luxury goods, 10 victory points if you have 1 of each. You also get 2 extra victory points for each good that is in your ship loaded up but hasn't actually been put out to sea yet. There's a couple other ways this game can end. One is by some of these cards, I think there's 1 or 2, they can actually trigger the game end if you meet the requirements on it, and you can instantly win. Or if there's never any cards left in this refresh deck because they're all out in people's hands or what have you, or there's none more in the discard to reshuffle in, that can trigger the game end as well, which is potentially happening in a sort of 6-player game. And that's it, folks. That is import export. Most money will be the winner.